Hi everyone, and welcome to another live lesson with us at PlanBee. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Emma and I will be teaching you today. So I've already seen a few people in the chat that I have come across before, so I'm just going to say hello to a couple of people. So hello Ayana, thank you for coming back. Hello Karin. And hello anyone from Lady Grove Park School. Thank you for joining us this morning. Really nice to see you on the chat. Hi Ebony, nice to see you again. Hi Holly and Leah. Really nice to have you all back. So before we begin, just to say that this lesson is all about fair trade, and if you didn't know, it is World Fair Trade Day on Saturday. So some of you might have been with Mr. Ryan yesterday, which was all about a fair trade lesson as well. So we're keeping up with that theme today and learning some more about what fair trade is. So while everyone's joining us on the chat, just a couple of things and to go through our today's timetable. So we are just going to wait for a moment and then we should start in just a few minutes' time. And then around 11:25, most of you will hopefully be doing some independent learning. And that's where we can always open up the floor to any questions from parents. And then hopefully at the end of the lesson, we might have some time to see some of your work. So just to remind you that if you would like to send your work in today, please email it to homelearning@planbee.com and hopefully we'll be able to share that at the end of the lesson. And that's my favourite part. I know it's lots of people's favourite part of the lesson, being able to see all your wonderful learning. So hopefully we can do that at the end of the lesson. Hello Andrew and Rachel. Hello to, who else have we got with us today? Lots of people returning, which is really great to see. Also, thank you very much Abby on the chat who's joined us today. She will be moderating and answering any questions that you have, or if I don't get to as well. So thank you very much Abby for joining us. Okay, a few reminders for parents before we begin. We really encourage you to stick around and join in with the lesson and supervise just to make sure that the children are safe. Also, a few housekeeping things. So at the bottom of the video today, there is a link to the worksheets. Don't worry, just like any PlanBee lesson, you can do this with us with just a piece of paper and a pencil. So if you can't print out those resources, it's not a problem at all. I'll show you what resources we are going to use today. I can get them up for you. Right, so here is the main worksheet that we will be using today. So if you have printed them out, then this is the one that we are going to be using. And if you haven't been able to print out the resources, that's fine. This is something that you can do on a piece of paper, so that's not a problem. Okay. Also, parents, just to remind you that in the bottom of the description, there's also a link to enrol, and that will give you any updates that we have of future lessons like this one. So please do enrol and make sure that you are receiving those updates. Okay, so let's make a start then. Let me move out the way. There we go. Okay, so we are going to be exploring the concept of fair trade today and why it is important. And I wonder how many of you have already heard of fair trade. Excuse me if there's loud trucks going past my house. Okay, so I have a challenge for you. On the next couple of slides, I have got some different products. And I would like you to create a shopping list. You can write these down if you like, but if you'd like to just remember what you chose, that's great. So you'll have three choices, A, B or C. And what I want you to do is have a look at those products, decide which one you would choose if you were in the shopping market and why you chose that. Hi Cara, thanks for joining us. Okay, is everyone ready? So here is the first one. So you have 3 different types of chocolate bar here. I know we all like chocolate, me especially. So you've got 3 different choices here, and I wonder which one you would choose and why. So make a note. You can either write it down on a piece of paper or just remember which one would you choose. And if you'd like to, just tell me in the chat and we can share. So Abdul says he would choose a milk bar. Okay. Because it's cheap. I like your reasoning. What other ones might we choose? We've got different options here. We've got some people choosing A, some choosing B. I wonder why you're choosing those chocolate bars though. I wonder why. Okay, keep that in mind. I'm going to move on to the next one. Maybe just jot it down which one you chose. Okay, so here we have some tea. I also like a cup of tea, often with my chocolate biscuits. So, 3 types of tea. Which one would you choose and why? Someone else has said because it's cheap. What do you think? Which one would you choose? Tell the person next to you if someone's with you, or tell me in the chat. Okay, has everyone just jotted that down? Let's see whether you remember. Okay, next one. This is the last one. So, 3 t-shirts here. Which one would you choose and why? Ooh, interesting. Someone's just said something very interesting and I'm going to come back to it in a second. There does seem to be a running theme here, a lot of people choosing the cheapest one, and I completely understand why. I wonder which one you'd choose, which t-shirt. Okay, has everyone done their shopping lists? Great. Right. So, which items did you choose and why? Lots of people have already guessed what I'm about to say. Well done, you guys. So, did you notice on the packaging this symbol? I think a lot of you did. What do you think this symbol means? If I go up, I'll show you where the symbols were on the packaging. So the symbol was on this one, A, and the one before, the symbol was here, and the one above, the milk bar, there. So what do you think that symbol means? Well, lots of you have already said in the chat that that symbol means fair trade. And someone's just said pay workers fair money. Very interesting. Good ideas. Brilliant. So I'm just going to disappear off your screen for a second and read through this slide. You're welcome to read with me. Okay, so people in developed countries have to make decisions every day about all the different things they buy, just like you had to just now. There are often many choices for the same product, so people need to decide which they will buy based on the price, the brand, the quality, or many other factors. So I wonder which reason you chose those products. What reason did you have? did you know developed countries are rich countries that have strong economies, and developing countries are poor countries that do not have strong economies? So I wonder how that plays into our idea of fair trade today. Now, just before I continue, I wanted to show you. So earlier on, when I was looking at this lesson, I went for a hunt around my house to see how many products I had that were fair trade or that had the fair trade symbol. So here's what I found. I found some, this is cooking chocolate actually, but if you have a look, can you see the fair trade symbol on this cooking chocolate? Can you see it? It's down here, just in the corner. So this is fair trade, this chocolate, and we'll find out what that means in a moment. So I found some chocolate. I also found some tea bags. Can anyone spot the fair trade symbol on the tea bags? Where is it? Can you see? Wonder whether you can see where it is. So if you haven't seen it already, it's in this corner here. So this is a fair trade box of tea here. And Kate has just said that they did the same yesterday, so that's really interesting. So I found those, I found some chocolate. On the same theme of chocolate, it seems in my house that we like chocolate because I also found some cocoa, and this is cocoa powder. Some that you can drink and some that's for baking. So let's have a look if you can see where the fair trade symbols are on those. Can you see them? Let's have a look, closer look. Oh, it's quite hard to do this when you're looking at two screens. Can you see them? So we've got this one here and one at the top here. So I'm going to set you a challenge after the lesson, or even as your main activity. You don't have to do the that worksheet that we were talking about. That after I've gone through all of this input, maybe you'd like to do the same and go for a hunt around your house and see how many fair trade products you can find. Okay, so moving on then. So, one factor that is becoming more and more important to people when they're shopping is whether or not the product is fair trade. This means making sure they buy products that they know the people who made them have been paid a fair price for. So does this mean that lots of people aren't paid fairly for the work that they do? What do you think? Do you think everyone is paid fairly? Let me know in the chat if you think everyone is paid fairly, or are some people not paid a good price for their products? Doesn't seem right, does it? Lots of people saying no. Okay, so moving on then. By the way, if you do find lots of products with fair trade, please do send pictures of them in. It would be great to see them. Remember, it is homelearning@planbee.com if you'd like to send it in. So moving on then. So unfortunately, yes is the answer. Many of the poorest people in the world work really hard to produce many of the things we buy every day, such as tea, which is what I found in my cupboard, coffee, sugar, chocolate, and cotton. And of course, cotton often makes clothes. Their crops are bought from big companies who then sell them in shops all around the world. The big companies often pay the farmers as little money as they can and keep all the profits for themselves. Sounds extremely greedy, doesn't it? But unfortunately, it does happen. The farmers don't usually make enough money to live on, but they don't have any power to change it. They get trapped in a cycle of poverty. And poverty is a really important word. Poverty is where someone lives in poor conditions, that doesn't have enough money to live or to buy food, which is really sad that in this day and age that people still live like that, and how lucky a lot of us are who do have those things. So let's have a look at the next slide. people who are in a cycle of poverty do not have enough money to live a good quality of life. They don't have enough to eat. They live in houses without electricity, heating, or running water, and children often have to work instead of going to school, and they don't have doctors or medicine when they get poorly. Because the big companies have all the power, the farmers have no choice but to accept the money they will pay them for their crops, even if it's not enough to live on. There is nothing they can do about it. That doesn't seem fair at all, does it? Okay. Oh, sorry. But why wouldn't the big companies want to pay the farmers a fair price? Simply because they don't have to. They want to be able to sell the products they make cheaply so that lots of people will buy them, which gives them as much profit as possible. If a farmer says they want more money, the big companies will just get their crops from another farmer. And you're right, there is a spelling mistake there. It should be a T there, but sorry about that. Let's read an example together to see how the systems work. And you're right, it is really sad that a lot of people have to go through this when they work so hard for all of those products. So let's have a look. Anuj has a small cocoa farm. He works really hard to grow the cocoa beans. When the beans are ripe, he sells them to a large corporation or a company. The corporation offers him a very low price for his whole crop. He has to accept because there is no one else to buy his cocoa beans. The corporation turns the beans into chocolate bars. People buy the chocolate bars cheaply in the shops. The money from the chocolate bars goes to the corporation and not to Anuj. Anuj doesn't have enough money to feed his family. He worked hard all year and has nothing to show for it. The corporation makes a lot of money from the chocolate bars, enough to cover their costs and have a lot left over in profits. That doesn't seem very fair, does it? So, have a think. What do you think about this? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair that Anuj should be able to produce all those amazing cocoa beans and he works so hard to farm them, and yet it's the big company that gets all the money? And Corinne's saying, no, it's not fair. Absolutely, I agree. Today, there are lots of fair trade organisations that ensure people are not only paid fairly for their produce, but that their communities are supported so that they can improve the quality of life for those working families. One of the most recognisable fair trade organisations is the Fairtrade Foundation, and there's that symbol that we were looking at earlier. Where have you seen that logo before? Can you think of any other products other than the ones that we've talked about where you can see that logo? Does anyone know? So we saw some chocolate earlier, didn't we? With that logo on here. Some tea. Does anyone know if there's any other products that often have the fair trade symbol on? Let me know in the chat if you have an idea. Yes, so bananas is another product that often are a fair trade product. And clothes, and actually we're going to find a bit more out about a banana farmer in a second. So let's have a look. I'm just going to talk about what the Fairtrade Foundation does and how it works before we look at a short clip. So farmers in a local community join together to create a cooperative. As a group, the farmers have much more power to decide the price they charge for their produce. Fairtrade sets a minimum price that the farmers will be paid for their goods. This means that whatever happens, the farmers know that they will be getting at least a set fair amount for their work that they do. The cooperative is also given a Fairtrade premium. On top of the money for their produce, The cooperative can decide what to spend this money on, either investing in their business or funding projects in the local community, such as digging wells for fresh water or funding schools and hospitals. Any products that have been made from Fairtrade produce have the Fairtrade label on, so shoppers know that they are shopping ethically and responsibly. So when I was having a little look around my house, I realised actually I don't actually have that many Fairtrade products in my house, so I'll definitely be looking out for those next time I go shopping. So we're going to have a short clip now, and we're going to find out a bit more about one of those farmers that does work for a Fairtrade cooperation or a cooperative. So let's have a look and see what I can get out for you. Okay, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
Meet Poncho. He's a banana farmer from a market town called Cienega in Colombia. He lives here with his family. There's his daughter Brenda, his son Alfonso, and his wife Faridas. Poncho loves his job. It makes him happy. But he works hard to help support his family. Bananas mean a lot to Poncho.
Esto siempre tiene que quedarse aquí, en el corazón. Si no lo llevamos aquí, esto es una planta de amor. Esto es un ser vivo y tengo que darle el mismo cariño que le doy a una persona. Porque de aquí ella me da para comer.
Poncho is a fair trade farmer, which means he receives a minimum price to cover the costs of his work. He's part of a group of fair trade farmers. They get something called the Fairtrade Premium, which is extra money that means they can choose to invest in their businesses or in community projects. Thanks to the minimum price he gets through Fairtrade, Poncho can support his family in many ways. His children, Alfonso and Brenda, are both studying. The family are currently building a house near the farm, and Faridas always makes sure there's good food on the family table. Things are good for Poncho, but when we unpeel the facts about the banana trade, we can see that not everything is as fair as it could be. Here's the problem. Bananas are as popular as ever. We chomp our way through 30 million bananas every day in the UK. Now, that's a lot of bananas. But bananas don't just grow on trees. They come a long way to get to us, and it costs a lot of money to produce and export bananas. So, how can we pay as little as 11p for a banana? The supermarkets use their massive buying power to keep the price they pay for bananas as low as possible. It means that the banana farmers and workers at the bottom of the supply chain get hit hard. As a result, many farmers and workers have been trapped in poverty, unable to afford food or provide the basics, such as healthcare or education for their children. Poncho is fuming that not all banana farmers get a fair deal. It has to change, and that's why we're asking you to stick with Poncho. Let's end unfair banana pricing. So gather as much support as you can. Make Poncho famous in your area. Get your school canteen to stock fair trade bananas and, of course, encourage people to buy fair trade. It's only the beginning of tackling this big challenge. So good luck, and remember, stick with Poncho. To find out more on how you can make bananas fair, go to fairtrade.org.uk/schools.
Okay, so I wonder how you felt when you were learning about Poncho and his banana farming. It really is such an important thing, and so many of us just don't even realise that when we're buying a bunch of bananas, that might be the impact on all the way back to the farmers who actually produce those bananas. And yeah, I agree with you. I think Cody's saying it's very sad, and so's Karen. Very sad. So, I would like to ask you then, what do you think of the work the Fairtrade Foundation does? What else would you like to find out about fair trade organisations? So have a moment to have a think. What do you think of that work that the Fairtrade Foundation does? Maybe tell me in the chat what you think, or tell the person next to you. What do you think? Is it important? I think it's really important, and I think a lot of people agree. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to that worksheet that we were looking at before, and you are going to go away and answer some of these questions on your mind map. So what is fair trade? How can you support fair trade? And what fair trade products can you remember? How does fair trade help communities? And how does fair trade help workers? Oh, and Karen says, please help Poncho. So, if you don't have that worksheet, I did mine on a small piece of paper. So, if you haven't got any way to print out the resources, I just drew my fair trade bubble here and I started answering some of these questions here. Okay, so you can do that without a printer. Okay, so if you'd like to go away and have a look at that, also what I will show on the screen is, let's see if I can find it. Here are some fact cards. So lots of information on there about fair trade. And if you have managed to print these out, then you can use these to think about what you want to write down on your Fairtrade Mindmap. So I'll leave these up for you if you haven't happened to be able to print them out while I talk to the parents about a few other things. So off you go, everyone. I hope you've learnt lots about what fair trade is, and there's lots of information there up on the screen, and Abby has just put the link to the worksheets in the live chat, so if you haven't got those yet, then she has just put the link there for you. So I'd love to see some of these ideas that you've written down, so once you get going, even if you haven't finished, if you could then send me a picture in and we'll try and share some of these ideas at the end of the lesson. Okay. So this is where we usually then open up the floor to parents. So if you have any questions about PlanBee, our resources, about home learning, any of those things, or even teachers, if you're listening, if you've got any questions about how we can help during this time, then please do ask away and we will try to answer them. Also, Abby's just reminded you in the chat about the website or the address, sorry, that you can send your work to. So that's homelearning@planbee.com. Okay. So while the children are working away, there's a few other things if you'd like to extend the learning from today's session that you could do with the children. So what I have here is I'll just move this out of the way so you can see some of those facts. So this is a lesson, a PSHE lesson on our site about chocolate and fair trade chocolate. And there's lots on here that you can always do with children to extend the learning on fair trade. So here you could write a letter to a company who doesn't buy fair trade cocoa beans and try and persuade them to start buying cocoa beans from a fair trade farmer instead. There's also a lot of information there about the Fairtrade Foundation. So if you'd like to print that out, that's on our website. And if possible, Abby might be able to find the link for you. Okay, so there is that. There's also some chocolate inspired maths here, brain teasers. So if you wanted to maybe link the learning to something else, such as maths, there's lots of things that you could do on here with them. And of course, also in the resources that you would have downloaded if you have done, there are some other activities, and this one in particular looks like a lot of fun. So let me just put this up on the screen for you. This is I'm trying to move it out so that you can see some of the facts. So this is a Fairtrade Wheel, and what you can do is cut this out at home, and you can do some of this learning here. So there's two parts to this. Let me see if I can find the other bit. So there's the top part. So this is more of a creative activity. So you can cut these bits out. It's like a Fairtrade wheel. And then on here, it has some information, and you can draw some pictures in here for each section. And when you're finished, you can attach the top of the wheel to the bottom part. And if you happen to have those butterfly pins, you can use those, or even I thought maybe you could stick a pencil in there in the middle, and then you can move around the wheel to each part of the Fairtrade wheel. So that's another really good learning activity if you wanted to find out some more about Fairtrade. Also, of course, you can always encourage the children to look around the house for Fairtrade products. And when I went searching, I actually found out some different companies that do Fairtrade. So one in particular was White Stuff Clothes do Fairtrade cotton deals as well. There's lots of different Fairtrade companies, including this one that does these chocolates, so green and blacks, do Fairtrade products. So really interesting. But of course, one of the problems here is that some Fairtrade products are more expensive. So you can see how it can be tricky for people to prefer to choose Fairtrade products when they're not as cheap. And that's what a lot of people were saying, a lot of the children were saying in the chat about cheaper products, and that they would go for those instead of Fairtrade possibly. So it's really difficult to weigh up what you think is doing what's best for those amazing farmers, but also for yourself. So it's always a challenge. If you have got any pictures that you've sent in already, then please do, and I'll try and show those. We've got a little bit of time left. And if there's any questions at all, I'll move my face out of the way so that you can see that bottom one there. And Abby, thank you very much. She's just put the chocolate lessons up in the chat for you. So if you wanted to try those out, and also the brain teaser with all of those maths challenges as well. Fantastic. So I wonder how you're all getting on. So remember, if you would like to show some learning at the end of this lesson, please do send it in. There's loads of those other activities that you can do following on from this. So I'll read out some of these facts here on the screen. So there are lots of Fairtrade organisations in the world. The most well-known are the Fairtrade Foundation and the World Fairtrade Organisation. So there's two different symbols there. And actually, I haven't really come across that first one before. So I often see the Fairtrade symbol on the right there. Around 1 out of every 10 people in the world live in extreme poverty. This means they live below £1.90 a day, which is about the same, $1, which is about the same as £1.40. So a day, that's not a lot of money to live on, is it? The World Fairtrade Organisation has over 370 member organisations in more than 70 countries worldwide. When people buy Fairtrade products, the farmers and workers are not only paid a fair salary, but are also given a Fairtrade premium. This money can be used to support their businesses or pay for important things for their communities, like clean water, education, and medical care. So this might be something that Poncho, we found out about earlier, has to his advantage in being a fair trade farmer. Also, there are around 1,500 chocolate products with the fair trade label on in the UK. This means there are plenty of ways to enjoy chocolate, knowing that the people who have farmed the cocoa beans have been paid fairly. So just like my cooking chocolate here, and also look, we've got some dairy milk up there. So there's always ways to help support those fair trade farmers. So let's see if anyone has sent in their learning. Right, let's see. I've got a picture from Lily and Henry here. What did you find? Let's have a look. Lily and Henry found some fair trade bananas. Fantastic! Can you spot there the fair trade symbol on the bananas? That's brilliant. Well done, Lily and Henry, and welcome back. Always nice to see you. Brilliant. So I wonder if anyone else has found some fair trade products in their house. If you have, send us in a picture. Or even if you haven't finished your learning, don't worry, you can always send that in. Let's see what you've got so far. Thank you, Lily and Henry. How are we all getting on? So, another fact here, lots of cotton farmers in rich countries like the USA are given grants to help their business. This makes it even more difficult for cotton farmers in developing countries to make enough money from their cotton because the market price of the cotton is lowered. Wine is made in 50 countries in the world. Fairtrade vineyards make sure that workers are paid fairly, that working conditions are safe, and that no child labour is used in wine production. And that's another problem. Some of these fair trade corporations find that there's child labour on their farms, which is a huge problem and shouldn't be happening. And there's been lots of information. There was even a programme about it on TV the other day, where we are trying to cut down the use of children doing all that hard labour, because that's a job, and actually it links to some of the things that Mr. Ryan was talking about yesterday in his lesson about what jobs children do, and the fact that children shouldn't really be doing these hard labour jobs, and it's not fair. Okay, let's see if there's any more work to be shown. Ayana, nice to see you again. Let's have a look at what you've done. See if I can download that. So Ayana, I'm just going to try and flip this around, has done a Fairtrade Mindmap, and she's answered some of those questions. So what is fair trade? Fair trade is getting the same amount of money fairly and supporting businesses by buying fair trade products. And she's even listed here some of those fair trade products, so bananas, cotton, cocoa. Brilliant. Well done. Thank you so much, Ayana, for that. And I can see that you've thought of lots of different ways that we can support fair trade farmers. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ayana, for sending that in. And we've got some more learning here from Ebony. Let's have a look. So Ebony's printed out her worksheet here, and she's busy working away on those questions. So there's lots of fair trade products. So Ebony, I hope you have got lots of ideas to write down on that worksheet. Well done. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do to finish off the session is just have a look at this page here. I'm just going to disappear for a second. So I want to leave you with this thought. Make one change. What one thing can you change about your life that can help people in developing countries? And how can your friends and family support you in the change that you will make? So I wonder what things you might be able to do to help the Fairtrade farmers. Just before I go, I've just had another email in from Holly, so I'm just going to show her work. Look. And while I'm getting that up, you can be thinking about what you can do, what change you can do to help those people in developing countries. Oh, brilliant. Wow. Look at all these great ideas. Well done, Holly. Look at all of that. So she says Fairtrade is if the person who sells the food to other people gets paid fairly. We buy products with the Fairtrade logo on it. Brilliant. And there's chocolate, cocoa powder, tea and bananas that are Fairtrade products. Farmers get paid fairly so they can pay their workers and also live a good lifestyle as well and try and help the community. And how does Fairtrade help workers? It helps the workers because they get paid the right amount of money and they can be happy and healthy. And absolutely, that should be something that we should all be able to do. So that is fantastic. So I'm going to leave you with that question. What change might you make? And it was really lovely to see you today and for everyone joining in today. And maybe you might go away and do some more things linked to Fairtrade this weekend on Saturday, World Fair Trade Day. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson and I hope to see you all again soon. So it's bye from me and have a lovely day. Bye guys.